Welcome to Washington Today on C-SPAN Radio for Friday, May 20th, 2022. Attorney General Merrick Garland speaking of the steps the Justice Department is taking to confront hate crimes, from pursuing criminal charges to raising awareness and reporting. It's been a year since the passage of a law to combat hate crimes against Asian Americans over the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's been a week since the racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, killed 10 African Americans. President Joe Biden visiting a computer chip factory in South Korea, one that will serve as a template for another one being built in Texas. President talking about strengthening technological innovation, democracy, and U.S. ties with the Indo-Pacific region. First flight expected soon of Pentagon-chartered planes carrying infant formula into the U.S. to deal with the shortage. We'll get an update from the Pentagon. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky calling Russia's nonstop attacks on cities in eastern Ukraine, the Donbas area, hell, as the G7 richest world economies pledge almost $20 billion in economic aid to Ukraine as it continues the war. Washington Examiner reporting the Department of Justice will release millions of dollars in funding for developing hate crime hotlines nationwide as the country grapples with its highest levels of such incidents in more than a decade. The DOJ will oversee the creation of hotlines dedicated to receiving reports of hate crimes to help local police departments throughout the country prevent racially motivated violence in their communities. The initiative will also incentivize states to submit hate crime data to the FBI for its annual report, which is not currently required for local law enforcement agencies. Attorney General Merrick Garland making the announcement at the Justice Department today. It's the anniversary of the signing of the COVID-19 hate crime law, addressing crimes against Asian Americans during the coronavirus pandemic. Garland began with an update on the investigation into last weekend's mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. 10 African Americans killed at a supermarket. The suspect, who has been indicted on murder charges, is a white 18-year-old reportedly posting racist and anti-Semitic content.
We had originally planned on hosting today's events to provide all of you, our colleagues, partners, and stakeholders with an update on our anti-hate efforts over the last year. We now gather in the wake of a horrific and painful reminder of the urgency and importance of this task. 6 days ago in Buffalo, 10 people were killed, another 3 were injured, an entire community was terrorized. The Justice Department is investigating this as a hate crime and as an act of racially motivated violent extremism. We are deploying every resource we have to ensure accountability for this terrible attack, to pursue justice for the victims and their families, and to provide support to a grieving community. Last weekend's attack was a painful reminder of the singular impact that hate crimes have not only on individuals, but on entire communities. They bring immediate devastation. They inflict lasting fear. We will use every legal tool at our disposal to investigate and combat these kinds of hate crimes and their collateral impact that they have on the communities that they hurt.
Attorney General Merrick Garland at the Justice Department. He went on to describe 3 anti-hate crime initiatives being presented today.
Today, I want to announce 3 important steps we are taking that reflect our holistic approach. First, along with our partners at the Department of Health and Human Services, we are issuing new guidance aimed at raising awareness of hate crimes during the pandemic. This guidance includes several steps that community-based organizations, law enforcement, government officials, and others can take to raise awareness of hate crimes and hate incidents, and how that increased awareness can be used as a tool for prevention and response. This guidance focuses on both hate crimes and hate incidents and was created with the input of many community-based stakeholders and public health professionals. In just a moment, Deputy Secretary Palm will discuss this guidance further. Second, I am pleased to announce that the department has hired Anna Noguez Mercado, Ana Paula Noguez Mercado, as our first ever full-time language access coordinator. Ana, please stand up. Thank you for joining the team. We know that language access is a major barrier to the reporting of hate crimes and hate incidents. Ana will join our Office of Access to Justice, where she will work to improve knowledge, use, and expansion of the department's language access resources. Third, I am pleased to announce that the department is releasing $10 million in grant solicitations for new programs to address hate crimes. $5 million of this grant funding was authorized under the Jabara Hire No Hate Act. These grants will support better hate crime reporting to the FBI and will fund states to establish and run reporting hotlines for victims of hate crimes. The other $5 million will go to supporting community-based approaches to preventing and addressing hate crimes.
Attorney General Merrick Garland at the Justice Department. More from the Washington Examiner article. Hate crime reporting saw a 32% increase in 2020 compared to the year before, with a 49% increase in attacks against black people and a 77% increase against Asian Americans, according to the latest data available from the DOJ. President Joe Biden, writes Associated Press, opened his trip to Asia on Friday by touring a South Korean computer chip factory that will be the model for a plant in Texas, holding it out as an illustration of how deeper ties with the Indo-Pacific can fuel technological innovation and foster vibrant democracies. Biden's message was pitched towards the promise of a better global tomorrow, yet also aimed at U.S. voters amid political challenges at home, such as inflation driven higher by the chip shortage, as he tries to show his administration is delivering on the economy. That from AP. President Biden speaking at the Samsung manufacturing plant in Pyeongtaek, South Korea.
Much of the technology and machinery that is used to make these chips was designed and produced in the United States. And by uniting our skills and our technological know-how, it allows the production of chips that are critical to both our countries and are essential sectors of our global economy. And thanks for the incredible $17 billion investment that Samsung announced last May, soon to the United States to have a facility like this one that manufactures the most advanced chips in the world in Tyler, Texas. Thank you. This investment will create 3,000 new high-tech jobs in Texas and add to 20,000 jobs Samsung already supports in the United States of America. So I want to thank Samsung for their investment and for continuing to expand the very productive partnership between the Republic of Korea and the United States. And I know that Samsung will also be working with Stellantis on a joint venture to build a new facility in the United States that will manufacture batteries for electric vehicles. Investments like these are going to help catapult us forward toward a clean energy future, which we both badly need, advancing our shared economic growth, our energy security, and our climate goals. I also want to make clear that these are smart business decisions. Samsung didn't invest $17 billion without, as we say in America, running the numbers. The United States is a top destination for foreign direct investment, like the one Samsung is making, because we have a world-class, highly skilled, and highly committed workers. I urge Samsung and Stellantis and any company investing in the United States to enter into partnerships with our most highly skilled and dedicated and engaged workers you can find anywhere in the world, American union members. Stellantis knows how much benefit comes from a successful relationship with the union in America. They have a national agreement with my friend Ray Curry, the United Auto Workers. For every joint venture that manufactures electric vehicle batteries would be made stronger by collective bargaining relationships with American unions. We also have outstanding, skilled, dedicated union building and construction trades workers ready to build a new Samsung facility in Texas. So let's work together to make this happen. and to get that plant built on time and on budget, safely and efficiently, because union labor means high-quality work that delivers the best possible return on investment. The United States has premier colleges and universities, a culture that fosters innovation and entrepreneurship, a transparent and predictable legal system where companies know their ideas and their investments will be protected. And my administration is doubling down on all of these strengths. We're investing more than $1 trillion to upgrade America's infrastructure coast to coast over the next decade. And hopefully soon, with the Bipartisan Innovation Act, we'll deliver historic federal investments in U.S. research and development, including funding for something called the CHIPS Act to revitalize the U.S. semiconductor industry. Our two nations work together to make the best, most advanced technology in the world, and this factory is proof of that. And that gives both the Republic of Korea and the United States a competitive edge in the global economy, if we can keep our supply chains resilient, reliable, and secure.
President Biden at a Samsung computer chip factory in South Korea, joined by the president of South Korea. President Biden will also be visiting Japan on this trip to Asia. Secret Service is confirming a report that 2 of its employees are being sent back to the U.S. and being placed on administrative leave after they allegedly got into a confrontation with a taxi driver in South Korea while they were apparently intoxicated. Secret Service Chief of Communications saying the employees' actions, which occurred while they were off duty, may constitute potential policy violations. A new AP-NORC Center for Public Research poll finding 39% of U.S. adults approve of President Biden's performance as president, lowest so far in that poll during his presidency. Only about 20% of those polls say the U.S. is heading in the right direction or the economy is good. 2 of the president's economic advisors discussing the state of the economy today at the Center for American Progress, including Cecilia Rouse, chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors.
While we are facing high prices at the gas pump and in grocery aisles, it's important to imagine what would have happened without the support provided during the pandemic by the federal government. This goes back 2 years, starting with the CARES Act and with the support provided to financial markets with the Federal Reserve. So this counterfactual would not have been pretty. So Mark Zandi of Moody's Analytics estimates that thanks to Congress's investments in CARES and the ARP, we likely avoided a double-dip recession in 2021, and that we likely avoided an unemployment rate that would be above 5% today. Moreover, as I think Jean will speak to, long-term unemployment rate was cut in half over 2021, which if we compare it to the Great Recession, it took around 4 years for long-term unemployment to fall that quickly. And so our success means that we have prevented the type of labor market recovery and kind of scarring that usually follows recessions. Okay, so where does this leave us? And I know that's a lot of what we want to talk about today. Well, this is a time of uncertainty, and I understand that. But it's really important to understand that the United States economy has resilience. So first, our labor market is robust. As unemployment is currently at 3.6%, and continuing unemployment claims are the lowest since 1969. Second, most household balance sheets are strong and can provide some cushion for rising prices. I understand rising prices are painful. I understand that, but because of the efforts over the past year, there is some cushion to adjust and respond to them. And third, American businesses are continuing to invest, and that's an important component of growth. In the face of current challenges, I take comfort in the fact that our economy we have the tailwinds to face the headwinds. So I will also just 2 more points. Because of this resilience, we face the current challenges from a much stronger position than most other countries that are peer countries in the world. And second, as I look forward to where we're going, I'm going to leave the guessing and the predicting to others. But what I want to emphasize is that here we are focused on builders. We are builders, and we are focused on building a strong, inclusive economy with policies that expand our economic capacity to generate higher growth that is more equally shared.
Cecilia Rouse, chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Inflation is running at a 40-year high in the U.S., over 8%. Many Republicans pointing to the big increase in government spending of late, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, as a cause. Senator Joni Ernst, Republican from Iowa, tweeting, Iowans are draining their savings to cover the costs brought on by Biden inflation. Yet the Democrats in Washington are steadfast on jamming through their radical spending agenda as a solution. Joining Cecilia Rouse at the Center for American Progress today, Gene Sperling, the White House coordinator for the American Rescue Plan. That plan is the $1.9 trillion stimulus package from 2021. Sperling asked whether that spending has contributed to current inflation.
I think when you look at the American Rescue Plan overall, yes, there's different studies. There's, somebody pointed out the other day, there's one San Francisco Federal Reserve study that shows it's, 0.3 of 1%, very negligible. Another one looks at all of the rescue plans and sees it significantly higher. But I think that when you look overall, this is a global inflation problem. It's a global supply issue. We each have different reasons when you look at our economy that it might be a bit higher. But the real distinction is that the U.S. has, through this strong American Rescue Plan, has put itself in a more durable, resilient, and I think equitable situation. And I think that is important. One news flash was today, the state unemployment numbers came out. I mean, think about this. 17 states today reached their lowest unemployment levels on record. I mean, they've been keeping this since 1976, but,
Yes.
40, 50 years, lowest ever. And I think that, this is my third White House. We're adults here. We know people pocket good news. And we also know, and not just, I don't want to feel negative about it. A person can see that the economy is strong. Maybe they have a couple of adult children who've gotten better jobs and wages, but they still go to that gas pump or the grocery store and we're frustrated. Yes. And I don't think we should be disparaging. I think we should understand that. But I do think we can do better in, telling us that story. Now, look, some of it is because when they did the American Rescue Plan, they were trying to lift the economy, not figure out how to do a political narrative. President met with about 9 mayors the other day on kind of public safety investment for American Rescue Plan. And 2 of them said, I feel a little bad. I'm doing well politically because of the American Rescue Plan that you passed. I'm announcing popular things that are helping me. And I feel a little bad that you're not getting the same degree of credit when we wouldn't have had that. So, I think there can be more to, help people understand that many of the good things are happening there due to the American Rescue Plan.
Gene Sperling, White House coordinator of the American Rescue Plan, part of a virtual discussion hosted by the Center for American Progress. U.S. House and Senate are not in session today or next week for that matter. They're starting a recess, or a district work period, as they call it. Congressman Chuck Fleischmann, Republican from Tennessee, interviewed by Newsmax today about the economy and inflation, especially gas prices. According to AAA, averaging $4.59 a gallon across the country, up 50% versus a year ago.
From the inception, they kept giving Biden and his minions pass after pass after pass as he was undoing successful Trump-era policies, as he was attacking the free enterprise system, as he was destroying our ability. Think about this. On energy, new oil and gas leases in Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico canceled by Joe Biden. Shocking. This is wrong. The American people ought to be outraged. They're feeling it at the pump. They're feeling it in the grocery store. They're feeling it around the table. There's concern and angst, and there should be. This is an administration that is beyond rudderless and confused. They're rudderless and wrong, and they're not stopping. They continue to listen to their left-wing minions who have absolutely no respect for the free enterprise system. Joe Biden needs to get corporate leaders in the White House right away, dealing with supply issues and supply chains. We need to make sure that American entrepreneurs who've made this country great for years, the free enterprise system, and yes, capitalism, Joe Biden, it's a good word. Profit is a good word. Get people in there and get this country back on track. We're going to continue to sink under Joe Biden unless something is done. We're doing the best we can in the House. I'm doing all I can as one lone member of the House on the Appropriations Committee. But we've got to do better. We've got to have a complete reversal in course. I just don't see it coming from this president.
Congressman Chuck Fleischman, Republican from Tennessee, on Newsmax. Wall Street today, the Dow up 8, S&P up a fraction, NASDAQ down 33. IRS says it is increasing the interest rate paid on delayed tax returns. Starting in July, it'll be 5% for individuals, 4% for corporations, and 7% for large corporate underpayments. IRS still has tens of millions of unprocessed returns, the backlog growing during the coronavirus pandemic as the IRS closed facilities. By law, IRS has 45 days to process a tax return. It says it gets 90% of refunds issued within 3 weeks. Still, in fiscal year 2021, they paid out $3.3 billion in interest, according to the GAO, Government Accountability Office. An update on Operation Fly Formula, the coordinated effort by the Departments of Agriculture, Defense, and Health and Human Services, plus the Food and Drug Administration, to bring infant formula into the U.S. from other countries to alleviate the shortage here, using Pentagon-contracted commercial airplanes. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby today.
On the Operation Fly Formula, we are, as I think you saw, we put a statement out last night. We're doing the sourcing work and the sourcing right now to arrange for the first flight to get formula from Zurich, Switzerland, to the United States. It'll be going to Plainfield, Indiana, this first flight. So we're working on the sourcing on that. I don't have a specific update for you in terms of exactly what carrier it's going to be, and exactly what time and date. But obviously, this isn't classified information, and as soon as we have it properly sourced and all the details worked out, we'll get that to you. I would add that we're working this very, very hard, have since last night, and I don't think it's going to be very long before A, there's a sourcing solution, and B, that flight is actually in the air.
Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby. He was later asked during this briefing whether anything else besides infant formula would be on those flights. He said he did not know. But that turned into questions about Kirby's future plans. Multiple news sources reporting John Kirby will leave his post at the Pentagon to take a senior communications job at the White House.
I don't know. Well, the flight hasn't been sourced yet, so I don't know. My guess would be, and I should never be guessing from the podium, but my guess would be that that's it. It's just going to be to get formula, and that's all there is.
So, and then also speaking of guessing from the podium, I guess, is this the podium you're going to continue to guess from, or should we expect you to be guessing from another podium in the near future?
I am very proud to be here, and that's what my focus is on.
That was far from an answer. So would you say that you're going to be in this job in like a couple of weeks, or are you moving to the White House? What's the deal?
I don't have any. I mean, look, I've seen the stories out there. I don't have any personnel announcements to make, certainly none about me. We all serve at the pleasure of the president. I will tell you that I am just so proud to be able to come back into public service and to be back here with you guys, and I'm focused on that. Tara.
So if you had to guess, do you think you'll be at this podium or maybe another podium?
I think the only guess I'm going to make today is the guess that I made to Courtney, which I probably shouldn't have done in the first place. I'm assuming it's just going to be formula on that plane, but I don't have anything personnel-wise to talk about today.
Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby at today's briefing with reporters. He was also Pentagon Press Secretary and State Department spokesman under former President Obama. More from John Kirby on Russia's war in Ukraine when Washington Today continues in a minute.
June 14th, 1971. Deputy National Security Advisor Alexander Haig delivers news of a leak of confidential military documents to President Richard Nixon.
Nothing else of interest in the world?
Yes, sir. Very significant. This New York Times expose of the most highly classified documents of the war.
Oh, that. I see. I didn't read the story, but you mean that was leaked out of the Pentagon?
Sir, the whole study that was done for McNamara and then carried on after McNamara left by Clifford and the peaceniks over there.
They would become known as the Pentagon Papers, and their publication would go on to change history. Beginning July 1st, Season 2 of Presidential Recordings, featuring the private phone calls of President Richard Nixon. Find it and follow wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to check out Season 1 with the private phone calls of Lyndon Johnson.
Welcome back to Washington Today, which you can get as a podcast on the free C-SPAN Now mobile video app and wherever you get your podcasts. From United Press International, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of trying to kill as many Ukrainians as possible and not having a military justification for some of its targets. The comments were some of Zelensky's sternest yet against Russia, which invaded Ukraine on February 24th. Zelensky putting out a statement that reads, in Donbas, the occupiers are trying to increase pressure. There's hell, and that's not an exaggeration. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby today asked about the state of fighting in that eastern part of the Ukraine, the Donbas.
On Ukraine as a whole, Shoigu has said, I think today, that the liberation of Luhansk is nearing completion. Do you have sort of a broad sense about how much of Ukraine Russia now controls and what that says about the state of the war right now?
I don't have a percentage estimate of geography, and I'm not sure that it would be much of a helpful metric anyway, Lita, because literally territory is changing hands every single day. For instance, 2 weeks ago, if you'd asked me about Kharkiv, while we never assessed that the Russians held Kharkiv, they were surrounding, encircling Kharkiv. There was only a small corridor to the southeast of the city that the Ukrainians could continue to supply themselves through. And now they have literally pushed the Russians well away from Kharkiv, all the way up to near the border with Belarus and with Russia, and then even to the east, well into the northern Donbas region. They have pushed the Russians out. In the Donbas region, almost every day, there are hamlets, towns, and villages that are changing hands. The Russians are still well behind where we believe they wanted to be when they started this revitalized effort in the eastern part of the country. And while they have made, and we have been very honest about this, they have made some incremental progress in the Donbas. It is incremental. It is slow. It's uneven, and the Ukrainians continue to push back. So it's a long answer to what was a simple question. I don't have a percentage of land held for you. And again, I don't know that we would consider that a useful metric, given how dynamic the fighting actually is in the east.
Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby. Kirby also saying there's no indication that Russia is using laser weapons in Ukraine. Russia says it's been fielding a new generation of powerful lasers to hit enemy drones. From Euronews, Russia will establish 12 new military bases in the west of the country in response to Sweden and Finland applying for NATO membership. The defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, made the announcement on Friday, saying that the bases would be in place by the end of the year. Russia's Interfax news agency reporting Moscow is taking adequate countermeasures in response to those perceived military threats in the west. Also, Finland's state natural gas company saying Russia will be cutting off its gas supply to Finland on Saturday, a move the company calls regrettable, but says there would be no disruption to customers. Russia is requiring countries deemed unfriendly to pay for natural gas using the Russian currency, the ruble. So far, 2 other countries have been cut off, Poland and Bulgaria. CNN notes that Finland relies on Russia for nearly 68% of its natural gas consumption in 2020, according to the International Energy Agency, but Russia's gas exports account for just 3% of the Nordic nation's total energy mix. The group of 7 leading world economies agreeing today to provide $19.8 billion in economic aid to Ukraine. The G7 finance ministers meeting in Germany. German Finance Minister Christian Lindner interviewed on Bloomberg TV.
We have to guarantee the capability of Ukraine to defend themselves. So we are here and we are fundraising to secure the liquidity of the Ukrainian government. And it appears that there will be more than 18 billion we can ways to support Ukraine in this crucial historical moment. And I think it's a very good signal that the G7 nations are standing shoulder to shoulder to Ukraine, because they are not only defending themselves, they are defending our values.
And of course, Germany has said that, and you yourself, you've spoken that this country is going to need a Marshall Plan, a huge reconstruction. But just on the short term, you're putting forward 1 billion euros. You've said you're going to commit with that. Now you talk about a communique that says 18. Who is funding this gap in between the 1 and the 18? Is it G7? Is it also European EU money? What's the combination here?
Yes, it's G7. For example, the 7.5 billion dollars the US Congress had decided, and in addition the EU programs, and this sums up to more than 18 billion. And if we use the capabilities of the IMF, I think for the foreseeable future of the next month, there shouldn't be any concern of the Ukraine government to finance their state's needs.
German Finance Minister Christian Lindner on Bloomberg TV. Poland's ambassador to the U.S., Marek Majorowski, spoke about the state of the war in Ukraine today. He was in Washington, D.C., a program hosted by the Truman Center for National Policy.
A few days ago, a deputy of the Russian Duma proposed to reinstate the Soviet flag as the new symbol of today's Russia Federation. And I have to confess, admittedly, I had mixed feelings upon reading that report, because on the one hand, I said to myself, well, finally, all masks off. We now know for sure that we are dealing with pure evil. On the other hand, another thought came to my mind. Hammer and sickle, because that red banner, as you perfectly know, is adorned with hammer and sickle. So these two symbols have always been symbols of destruction, at least for us, Central Europeans. So at first glance, I thought, how fitting to have that declaration on paper and in plain view. On the other hand, how disturbing and how terrifying to see Russian politicians coming up with this kind of proposals. So, hammer and sickle as symbols of destruction, the very same destruction we can see now in plain sight in Ukraine. Russian troops targeting civilians, destroying Ukrainian infrastructure indiscriminately, destroying Ukrainian crops and culture and legacy, and trying to erase the Ukrainian identity. And again, when I heard that report about the Soviet flag, I said to myself, well, this is what the Soviets were doing for decades in Europe and beyond. We saw those unspeakable atrocities already in Afghanistan in the 80s, then in Chechnya, and most recently in Syria. Now we can see those crimes also in Ukraine. I'm lucky to have lived under both systems, because I was born under communism. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, very many. And then I had the opportunity to get a taste of capitalism and democracy in Poland. So I know something about Soviet mentality, and I can detect pretty easily the vestiges of Soviet mentality in contemporary Russia. When Russian troops steal, loot, and rape, I am appalled, as anybody else, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. The question is, on the final note, when we are talking about hammer and sickle, that symbol of destruction and oppression, mostly for us Central Europeans, the question is how acceptable that symbolism is for the Western societies, not for us Central Europeans. For us, it's pretty clear that this is unacceptable and abhorrent to even think about using this symbol as an epitome of a normal country, in this case Russia. It's unacceptable for us. It's as unacceptable as the Nazi swastika. So that particular remark and that proposal didn't cause much controversy in the West. Are we ready to accept hammer and sickle as the new symbols of the Russian Federation? Are we ready to accept those horrendous images that we see on a daily basis in Ukraine? Are we ready and willing to surrender, not to Russia, to hammer and sickle? Are we ready to make any concessions to hammer and sickle? I think this is a question which is looming on the horizon now, especially for some countries and some societies in Western Europe.
Polish ambassador to the U.S., Marek Magierowski, at today's Truman Center for National Policy annual conference in Washington, D.C. British ambassador to the U.S., Karen Pierce, also on this panel. C-SPAN covered it, and you can find the full video at cspan.org. And thanks for listening to Washington Today. Get more top Washington stories sent to you each day by subscribing to C-SPAN's evening newsletter Word for Word. You can sign up at c-span.org/connect. Have a good night.